Okay, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And it has been a live show this morning, obviously. You can follow us on Twitter at Fetcher News, at FYNTV. You can email us at chief@fetchernews.com, 706-889-9700, 24-hour hotline for news. If you see news or you need to contact us, that's the number. We've been doing a series on the 6th Congressional District, Georgia 6th Congressional District special election. Former Congressman Tom Price is now the HHS Secretary, right in the center of things. So with the new health care bill, and that leaves an opening. There are 18 candidates, 11 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 2 independents. We have offered all 18 candidates an opportunity to do approximately 30-minute video so you can get to know these candidates a little better as we discuss issues with them. This morning, we're happy to have with us, qualified as a Republican, Ms. Amy Kremer. Ms. Kremer, are you with us there?
I am. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on with you.
Well, I've followed a lot of what you've done from afar. I don't think we've ever met at one of the events. We probably attended one of them, but I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to meet with you. You're in the 6th District. Let's just start right out with why you chose now to run for this office, this special election, and what were you thinking? Why now? And what's your game plan? There you go.
Sure. Well, again, thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll meet in person one day. I'm one of the founders of the modern-day Tea Party movement. I had never been involved in politics until the Tea Party movement. I'm a former flight attendant and real estate agent. And the past 9 years, I have been on a bus or crisscrossing the country from coast to coast electing conservatives such as Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Mark Meadows. I mean, I could go on and on. But as I've done that, I've carried the values of the 6th District with me as I've worked to elect these conservatives and send them to Washington. And I never planned on running for Congress. It was not something that I really aspired to do. But as I've crossed the country and worked in the Tea Party movement, I have encouraged others to step out of their safe zone and put themselves out there and run, because I believe we need more citizen legislators. We don't need more politicians, more lobbyists, more lawyers in Washington. So I've been working with Tom Price to fight Obamacare since before it was even called Obamacare. When we had the big march on D.C. back in 2009, we had a doctors rally at the U.S. Capitol where we had more than 1,000 doctors come to the U.S. Capitol. First time that had ever happened, and it's not happened since. So I've been working with Tom Price to fight Obamacare since the very beginning. And when he was elected HHS Secretary, I live in this district. I've lived here my entire life, was born and raised here, went to Auburn University for a little bit, but have lived here, like I said, my entire life. And so when Tom was elected HHS Secretary, and this is my district, it was like, and people were coming to me saying, you need to run, which they've encouraged me to do all through the years. You know, how could I not run when I've been out there encouraging others to do the same? If I'm going to encourage others to do it, I need to be willing to do it myself. And so here I am. As I said, I've crossed the country, carrying the values of the 6th District with me, and now I want to represent the people of the 6th District. And so, Brian, that's really why I decided to do this and jump into this race. I believe that we are a conservative district, we're a conservative state, and we need to have somebody in Washington that is willing to represent the people of this district, and that's exactly what I want to do.
Outside looking in, I have been reading articles from several publications. Outside looking in, it's not looking like, if you're outside, that the 6th District is quite a conservative district. And where I'm going with this is there may be a couple candidates that's not embracing the president as much. And these are my words, so this is outside looking in. So if elected and running right now, do you embrace the president, or I mean, I know you're going to be your own person if you go to Congress, but what say you in that kind of mood that I'm seeing in that district a little bit?
So I believe that the district is actually more conservative than what some people are saying, and we could get into that. But as far as where I am with the president, I'll tell you, I was on board with Donald Trump from day one. I am a huge Ted Cruz supporter. I could have supported Rand Paul. I mean, a number of the guys that were running in that race, I helped elect and send to Washington. But I was on board with President Trump, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe, like I said, we need outsiders in Washington. I firmly believe that we needed a businessman who understood economics and how global markets work and so on and so forth. And I believe that it was going to take somebody from the outside to really shake up Washington, and Donald Trump was that person. I also didn't want to lose Ted Cruz from the Senate, Rand Paul from the Senate, so on and so forth. So the only way that we could have Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Donald Trump all in Washington to fight this good fight was to have Trump in the White House and Rand and Ted in the Senate. So I am a supporter of Donald Trump, and I remember back in 2011 when Jim DeMint called us to Washington to meet about cut, cap, and balance. I said to him at the end of that meeting, Senator, what can we do to help you? And he said, you can send me backups and reinforcements because it gets pretty lonely up here. So I know Donald Trump needs backup and reinforcement. I know the guys in the Freedom Caucus, House Freedom Caucus, need backup and reinforcement. Same with the conservatives in the Senate. So I am going to support them in their efforts. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be a yes woman or yes man for Donald Trump or anyone else. I'm going to represent the people of the 6th District. So as long as they are doing what is best for the American people and the people in this district, I will support them. But at the end of the day, I will represent the people of the 6th District.
Well, I think I can understand that. I mean, I can understand saying that. Sure, support the president, but then your first and foremost responsibility has to be to the 6th District. You brought it up, so let me put a couple things into because looking here, you go from you helped elect Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and you have that all written down there. So right now, because if elected on May 18th, and if not in June, we have April 18th. I said May. I apologize. Yes, thank you. April 18th. I don't know. I'm pushing up for April flowers bring May showers bring May flowers. So anyhow, so if elected April 18th, if not in June, the issues right now that we're discussing, you would be there probably making decisions on. So the new health care bill, the American Health Care Plan, some claim Obama light, even from the Republican side. The Freedom Caucus, you brought up the Freedom Caucus, that's what I'm putting out there. They're not satisfied with it at this time. Senator Rand Paul said dead on arrival. You know the whole list. You know what's going on with that. What say you about this plan and what I call, or they're calling, the three-prong effect? So can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So first of all, I believe it's really upsetting to me because I think they are squandering an opportunity. The Democrats are running interference, or they're doing this obstructionist thing. It's exactly what their constituents want them to do. But the Republicans were sent to Washington, number one, to repeal and replace Obamacare. That was their number one job. They've all campaigned on it for the past 6, 7, 8 years now. Well, here they are, and they are dragging their feet, and they're playing the silly games that Washington plays. And it's unfortunate, and I'm truly afraid that they are going to blow this opportunity, and come 2018, they're going to lose their butts, and Dems are going to take over the House and Senate, and the Republicans will deserve that if that happens. When they need to do a clean repeal bill, they say this three-step, this three-prong process, or the three buckets, bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3. I'm concerned we're not even going to get to step 2 because they are losing momentum with every passing day the way that they are handling this. And what's unfortunate is people say we need to come together with Democrats and work together on this. We can't even get the Republicans to come together on this. And Brian, I'll tell you what's the most disappointing to me is I know Paul Ryan, I like Paul Ryan, but Paul Ryan's trying to pull a fast one on the people, I believe, and the president. He says he's going to do this by regular order. We're going to go through the process and do this by regular order. And that means it's going to be written in the committees, and then we'll bring it to the floor, and so on and so forth. Well, he did it in the committees, wouldn't let anyone else be involved in that process, and then they're going to bring it to the floor, and they won't allow any amendments to it. That's just like what the Democrats did. We're no better than them if that's the way it's going to be handled. The American people deserve to have a debate on this and have amendments added. And the Freedom Caucus, they represent people across this country, and they should have a voice in this, and Paul Ryan has cut them out. I hope and pray when Ted Cruz met with the president last week and had dinner with him, my thoughts were, I hope Ted is able to pull the president to the right, to our way. And so an article came out on Politico last night that said that the president had a phone call, I guess, with Paul Ryan and Scalise and some others, and I guess it was pretty tense, but he wants some things put in that bill that the conservatives want. And so I hope that they're working on that. But I truly am afraid that it's not going to happen because they're losing momentum. And another thing, Brian, I'll say is that this is not something that that they can handle part through the legislative process and then part through executive action with Tom Price, writing rules and regulations at HHS. Because if that happens 4 years from now, if Donald Trump's not reelected, we could have a Democrat president in there and they could undo it immediately. This needs to be done through the legislative process so it becomes law and it's not some executive action.
Well, you mind if I call you Amy?
No, go please.
Amy, the three-prong obviously is the first one, their reconciliation. Yes. And the second one's HHS, and the third one's legislative. And as we both know, and you touched on this, that when Kathleen Sebelius was the HHS Secretary and they passed, the Affordable Care Act, every third paragraph says refer HHS, refer HHS. So what I'm hearing you, and I want you to just reiterate this for me, what I'm hearing you say is, okay, so Tom Price, we like Tom Price around here in Georgia, but Tom Price, HHS Secretary, goes through there and makes all of these changes from his level. If we don't change the powers of HHS in itself and something happens, Trump does not get reelected, the new HHS Secretary just goes through and scratches those out and changes it back. Did I hear you going down that direction in a way?
Yes, and that is exactly what I mean, and that's why I say it needs to be done through the legislative process. Now, I'm sure that there are some things that HHS handles, and they always have, and they probably always will, but for the most part, this needs to be done through the legislative process so that it becomes law. And just for example, first of all, you and I as individuals, I'm assuming that you do, but I know for myself and my own family, I want to know I want to be able to plan out. I don't want to have to be dealing with this yo-yo on health care and insurance and everything every 2-4 years. That's not right. And also when it comes to businesses don't operate on short-term plans. They operate on long-term plans. And businesses need to be able to plan and allocate their resources and this, that, and the other. And when you have an administrations coming in and out and changing things every 2 to 4 years, that's not acceptable. No one can live like that. So the American people deserve better than that, and that's why I think it needs to be done through the legislative process.
All right, Amy, I'd love to stay and discuss healthcare. In fact, I'd love to put a panel together where 7 or 8 of us could talk healthcare for a couple hours. But you're saying if Paul Ryan, if they do not listen to the president, push some of the things that Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Freedom Caucus is saying we have to accept this as a repeal and replace, you're saying they've got a problem if that doesn't happen?
I absolutely think they do. I mean, just one thing, and I know you want to move on from this, but the one thing that is so important that even Democrats could get on board with is purchasing insurance across state lines. And that's something that the Dems could get on board with because most Americans support that. That's going to drive down the cost to create competition. That's free market solution. And at this point, we're not even going to get to that because they're losing momentum and they're not even going to be able to get through this first bucket, so to speak, or first step. So, they've got to put some of these things in there because without Republicans, they can't do it by themselves. Dems aren't on board with it, and all Republicans aren't on board with it, so they seriously have a problem.
Let's go to immigration and border security. One, let me just put this out there, and then you can take the whole subject and go with it. One, do you support a wall, a deterrent of some sort, mostly being a wall on our southern border? Two, have you listened to the president's laying out what he feels is the best route for immigration reform? And do you support that, or would you like to see it go further, or what other changes would you want to see in immigration and border security?
So, number one, I do support a border wall, but I don't think it's just the border wall that's going to secure our borders. I think it's going to be a combination of, different things, because part of it is actually the Rio Grande River, I think, that goes across there. So you can't build a wall through there, but so it's going to be a number of things because they'll tunnel under and do anything that they can to get into this country. But yes, I do support a wall, and I do believe that they need to allocate the funds to deal with border security right away. Like the president has said so many times, I believe that you don't have a sovereign country if you don't have secure borders. We absolutely need to secure our borders. We do have an illegal immigration problem. We need to deal with that illegal immigration problem, but we can't do that until our borders are secure. I personally believe we are a land of immigrants. People have come from all over the world, and it's been called the melting pot. I want immigration to continue, but I want it to be done the correct way. And the illegal immigrants that are here, I believe that Donald Trump, the way he has laid out handling it, with dealing with the bad dudes, I think is what he said first, and getting them out of here, I absolutely support that 100%. And then going through and dealing with the other illegal immigrants that are here. I believe that Donald Trump is a compassionate person. I believe that most Americans are compassionate people. I don't think that there are many people that want to, split up families and separate children from their mothers and that sort of thing. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to have people live within our laws, follow the laws of the United States, and if they come here legally, that's fine. And we will get to that, but I do think we have to deal with the situation at hand first, and it's going to be done in a slow process. I don't think there's a way. We don't have the resources to do it quickly, but I do think that with Donald Trump in the White House and with Republicans in control in the House and Senate, I do think it is something that we can focus on and accomplish.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Would you be in favor of a pathway to residence? Now, not citizenship, or that's up to you, whatever you're. So would you be open to a sort of, it's like the president, we'll just quote him, okay? The bad dudes, right?
Right.
President said the bad dudes are going first, and, I try not to do the interviews and sound supportive of certain topics, but obviously I support that all the way. I think everybody should support the gangs and the drugs and things like that being stopped. Then after that, if you have people working that are actually working, you have children in our schools, whatever, do you support a path to residency in any type? What do you say?
So, it's very complicated, and honestly, what I would like to see the president do is I would like him to And our representatives, our senators and congressmen, I would like them to do listening tours and listen to what the American people think and feel, how they think and feel about this. I have seen some things on some of the cable news networks, and like I said, I believe that the American people are compassionate. I do not support a pathway to citizenship for people that have come here illegally. I think that they need to get in line behind the ones that have come here legally or are in line to come here legally. A pathway to residency, I'm not sure, Brian. I mean, I'm just being totally honest with you here. I don't know exactly how it should be handled. I know there have been many different options that have been put out there. I'm not sure exactly what I could support right now, but I do believe that those that have been here, 15, 20 years, whatnot, working, contributing to society, I do think that we need to be able to work that out some way so that families are not, pulled apart. Children aren't pulled away from their moms and dads and whatnot. I just don't know exactly what that looks like.
Okay, let me give you one more. I want to end with a couple of questions that I've asked every single candidate, regardless of party affiliation. But before we do that, let's go to tax reform and job creation, kind of push that all together. The president is Steve Mnuchin. The president is trying to get his tax reform, his budget together with a tax cut, repatriate money from corporate tax and bring some money back to this country. They say there's $1 trillion plus sitting out there that can come back. What say you on what you've seen on tax reform, and what can you support, and what do you think it should look like, tax reform?
So I think that the more money we send to Washington in taxes, the more power that they gain. I could support repealing the 16th Amendment. That I could definitely support repealing the 16th Amendment. I do believe that we could do a fair tax or a flat tax. But the one thing I know for sure is that our tax code is too complicated. We need to simplify our tax code, and we need to cut taxes on individuals and corporations. And I believe that, like when Reagan cut taxes and it pumped a bunch of money back into the economy, I believe that that's what will happen now. Corporations, I mean, when we have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, there's no incentive for companies to move here, to relocate their businesses here. So I do believe we need to lower that corporate tax rate. And at the same time, that will allow them to take that money and put it back into their companies, invest in the businesses, and it will create jobs. And again, when you're looking at long-term, like businesses do, I think that will help our businesses grow and create a pro-growth environment where you will have jobs created. At the same time, you cut taxes on individuals, that puts more money in their pockets. What are they going to do? They're going to go out and spend money, and there again, you're going to put more money back into the economy, and it's actually going to create revenue for the federal government. So I think that is the way for job growth. We need to create that pro-growth environment so that jobs are created. Businesses have confidence in the economy, and they know what's going to happen down the road. And part of that is Obamacare too, because we all know some businesses have not been able to afford paying for Obamacare for their employees. So I think that is part of it as well.
Okay, our last two things this morning, Amy. Today actually is March 15th, and we remember Speaker Boehner handing over to now Speaker Paul Ryan the can that they kicked all the way down the road called the debt ceiling limit that put a cap on what the debt could be at. And we know that ends today. So we don't hear it in the news, but tomorrow somebody has to do something on the debt limit, on the ceiling. That being said, the national debt, I understand, in 10 years, excuse me, I think it's interesting that there's more time spent, and this is my word, so I just have to get this out because sometimes I get riled up. There's more time spent on the CBO report on that it will, in the next 10 years, put 24 million people off health care. So it's interesting that that's the narrative that you keep hearing. But let's use another 10 years. I understand that regardless if Hillary Clinton was president of the United States or Donald Trump was the United States, the Oval Office itself, whoever's behind the desk, if nothing happens in 10 years, the national debt goes up another $10 trillion. That's my understanding. What say you concerning this debt ceiling that's coming on us, which we really have no choice or start defaulting or something because we don't have enough cash to run the country, and the actual debt we're facing, because you can't talk about the third rail of Medicare and Social Security, and you know, there's so many things that they won't allow you to talk about. What say you on the national debt? I guess I'll get around to it sooner or later, Amy. I apologize. I get wound up on the national debt.
It's okay. So I believe that we have to deal with entitlements, and because that is part of our national debt, and they're insolvent. And Obamacare is another entitlement program. That's another reason that it has to be dealt with. I am not an economist. I'm not an accountant. And it's very complicated. I don't have the specific answers right in front of me. I don't know them, but I do know it needs to be dealt with regardless of how hard it is. Whether it be, you know, the younger generation, our children, I have one child that's 26, whether it's her generation that, you know, Social Security is changed and they're able to invest in 401ks or something of that nature. I'm not sure what the answer is, but something has to happen because it is insolvent. Our national debt is actually, I think, it's a threat to our national security. I believe that we need to get off foreign oil and stop borrowing money from others. Use the energy resources that we have here. I know Donald Trump wants to do this, you know, big infrastructure deal, and where we work on the infrastructure across this nation because some of it is crumbling. But at the same time, I believe that if we're going to go spend that money, we need to cut from somewhere else. We cannot continue to spend into oblivion. It's not acceptable, and I don't think it's moral. It's morally right to put that debt on our children and grandchildren. So I do think it needs to be dealt with. We need to cut spending, and cutting spending is not going to be, it's not going to handle it all in itself. I believe that if we were to create a pro-growth environment and pump some of that, get businesses coming here, get people spending more money because they've got more tax money in their pocket, the money that is put back into the economy that generates that revenue, I think that that it should be used to pay down our debt. We have to get this spending under control. We cannot continue down this path to insolvency.
All right, last question for the actual interview here. I've asked every candidate specifically, you're in the 6th Congressional District, specifically, what do you want to go and accomplish that you feel you need to do for the citizens of the 6th District? Stay focused on the 6th District. What would you like to accomplish for them? Or what's important there for that district?
Well, I think that, Obamacare, number one, is important. It's affecting all of us. And when we talk about Obamacare, when they're talking about Obamacare, just because you put a health insurance card in somebody's wallet doesn't mean that they're going to have health care coverage. Then you have to get in and see a doctor. We need to fix this whole system. And I believe that it's important for all members of the 6th District. That is very important, and they're having a hard time doing it. So I would like to go up there and put my, have my say in it and give them some reinforcement and backup to do the right thing. That's number one. But I think tax reform is another thing. It's part of what, it probably touches every American across this country, again, because families want to be able to put food in their table, gas in their cars, and pay for their kids to go to college, and all the things that we do as families. I mean, that affects the people right here in the 6th District just like it does in other places. So, and I believe that those are the top two things that when this president was elected and the Republicans were sent back to control the House and the Senate, I believe that those are the top two things. And so those are the things that we need to be dealt with and that need to be dealt with. And Republicans need to follow through on their promises on that. And so that's what I want to go focus on.
Amy, the 6th Congressional District, and I really haven't had this conversation with any other candidates up till now, but following things, the 6th Congressional District is getting actual national coverage, and it's being put out there almost like a referendum on Donald Trump, that the 6th Congressional District will be the first district to get to say whether they support or approve or disapprove of the president. That being said, are you concerned with the amount of money that you're seeing coming in for the Democrat candidate? There are 5 candidates, and all 5 candidates are not happy about this, but are you concerned with the money that's pouring in for Mr. Ossoff in that district from around the country?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but it honestly, Brian, it does not surprise me. He's having a fundraiser actually Thursday night.
I opened my show with that. I got the fundraiser clip. I opened the show with it, and I actually told people they better pay attention. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. But yeah, no, I'm concerned about it. I'm absolutely concerned about it. But at the end of the day, I believe that this is a conservative district. I don't believe that Dems are going to win this seat, regardless of how much money's put in here. And I mean, look, you can go to a number of races around the country, and even Republican against Republican, Dave Bratt against Eric Cantor in Virginia a couple of years ago in that primary. I don't think that the Dems are going to win this seat. I think that it is going to be a Republican held seat, and I'm not worried about it. But at the same time, the people in this district have to get out and vote, because that is what's going to stop them. We can stop them with our vote, but that's the only thing that we can stop them with.
Okay, is there going to be a forum? I went to a Democrat forum this past weekend. I haven't actually been invited or seen anything. Is there a forum coming up for Republicans that you're aware of here soon that maybe I can attend?
You know, I have seen so many emails and invites for forums and debates and whatnot. I know that the Republican Party was talking about having one, the Cobb Republican Party. The only thing that I know of off the top of my head right now is that Brand Bank is having a forum, I believe, on March 29th, and it's going to be, actually, I'm not sure where it is, but I think it's going to be broadcast on WSB radio, and it's around the lunchtime hour, sometime midday. I can get that information for you. I don't know if it's a public thing, if you have to buy tickets for it, or how that'll happen, but I can find out for you and let you know. Anything
on forums or anything like that that we maybe can attend and highlight for the voters, just, send us an email, okay?
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you very much, and we want to end by telling you the same thing we tell every candidate. We thank you for your willingness to serve the district and the citizens in the 6th District, and FetcherNews.com, FYNTV, wish you well during your campaign.
Thank you so much, Brian. I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, that we have been with Amy Kremer. She's a Republican candidate in the 6th Congressional District, and we're continuing every day. You'll be able to find this with our other interviews on our YouTube channel later today. Take us to break. We're going to wrap up when we come back with a couple points nationally, look around nationally, and a couple things that I want to go over before we close today's show. So take us to break there, Sam.